time has been revised a bit for the Prime Minister's landing. So in the next 4 to 4.5 hours is when the Prime Minister will land here in New York, which will be about 10:25 p.m. Indian Standard Time. So we can expect a large number of people gathered to welcome him. This is largely the diaspora. We've seen this even in the past, but most of the diaspora events are more likely to happen in Washington, D.C., where we have seen planned parades and other events that the diaspora is holding. Apart, of course, on the 23rd, when the Prime Minister himself will be addressing the Indian diaspora at the Reagan Center. But talking here about New York, Gargi, after landing, the Prime Minister is expected to hit the ground running by first meeting CEOs of some of the companies in America. We still do not know exactly who the Prime Minister is expected to meet, but these meetings are going to be one-on-one. Now, what we know is that the Prime Minister's schedule has been made in such a way that he has time at different periods during this 4-day visit where he can meet and engage with various business and industry leaders. So there is one slot today right after he arrives, because in New York his only engagement is tomorrow, which is for the International Yoga Day event which he'll be leading. That is as per US time tomorrow early morning from 8 to 9 a.m. Today, once he lands this evening in New York, he will for 2 hours be meeting CEOs. Then again in Washington, D.C., he has 2 more slots. These are all one-on-one meetings. Apart from that, he will be addressing young entrepreneurs in an event that has been organized by the US-India Strategic Partnership Forum, USISPF. This will be at the Kennedy Center, where there will be about 1,000 people in attendance, and the Prime Minister will be speaking to them. The stress really, Gargi, has been in the run-up to the Prime Minister's visit, and since last year, when India and the United States looked at closer tech partnership under ISET, which was the initiative for critical and emerging technologies that was announced by Prime Minister Modi and US President Joe Biden. In that partnership, as Jake Sullivan, the US NSA, has said, it is critical that it's not government to government but industry to industry engagement that is necessary. And that is why in the run-up to the Prime Minister's visit, Jake Sullivan was in Delhi less than a week ago, where he engaged at a CII event with a lot of entrepreneurs, and in that engagement the entrepreneurs were able to speak, and this was an event open to the media as well. It was called Track 1.5, where Jake Sullivan heard out what is that the industry on the Indian side requires for better collaboration. Now, we are looking at substantive issues under tech. We already have an initiative on semiconductors, and this is certainly very important, not just with an eye on China, but the fact that the semiconductors supply chain was hit during COVID, and we had seen the automobile industry struggling to get semiconductor chips, which is very vital for a lot of parts that run the car, specifically navigation. And semiconductor chips are utilized almost everywhere around us, from our household electronic gadgets, telephone, ATMs. So this is a very important aspect on which both sides are collaborating. So the Prime Minister is expected to meet with industry leaders, CEOs, and look at better collaboration, what India can do to enhance that partnership with the United States. Apart from that, in New York, Gargi, as I was pointing out, tomorrow the Prime Minister will be leading the International Yoga Day that will be held at the UN headquarters. It is at the behest of India that it was adopted as an International Day of Yoga in 2015, and 194 missions are invited for that. There's about a capacity of 1,000 people to perform yoga. The UNGA president has already confirmed that he will in fact be participating in the International Yoga Day events.
Right, and Maha, also, as we said, the Indian diaspora, very excited about this visit, and they've been fairly ecstatic already, having events marking the Prime Minister's visit. So that event in which he's going to be addressing the diaspora, that'll take place on the 23rd at the Ronald Reagan Center.
Yes, that is going to take place in Washington, D.C. This will be an event which might not be the size of what we have seen earlier on, where the Prime Minister has addressed huge gatherings, for instance, in Howdy Modi event in Texas, or even otherwise, for instance, very recently in Australia as well. This is a a capacity of about 800 to 1,000 in the Ronald Reagan Center, and the Prime Minister will be addressing the diaspora. But the diaspora, I understand, and as they have been telling us, is that they are going to be at various other locations as well. For instance, we have seen this even in the past, that when the Prime Minister comes to the White House, a lot of diaspora gather outside the White House. But this time around, this is a state visit, and as President Joe Biden said, that there is in one segment of the diaspora huge excitement about it. So a lot of them also having been invited to the White House as well. We are also likely to see a lot of Indian American community participate in the state dinner that Joe Biden will be hosting for Prime Minister Modi. That will be on the 22nd evening. The guest list should be around 250 is what we understand, but that of course is the prerogative of the White House since the dinner is being thrown by them. The procedure is such that the Prime Minister first enters the White House for the state dinner in the evening, and then he's introduced to all the guests. So that's a gathering that will be for a select few, but a very, people from the Indian American community who have made a mark here in the country, in America. And there is no dearth of Indian Americans who really have made a mark here in the US.